What if one casual conversation with a curious boy unlocked a mystery that had haunted a mother for over a decade? Valerie Peterson had buried hope along with the life she once knew, until a child's smile, a birthmark, and an old photograph shattered everything she thought was lost. A missing son, a forgotten identity, and a cure for cancer someone powerful would do anything to erase. But can the truth survive when the enemy controls everything? Find out in today's Out of the Ordinary story. Please also let us know where you're listening from. After losing her husband, Nicholas, and living alone in their family home for decades, Valerie Peterson finally agreed to move into a small condo in the suburbs of Chicago. The walls of her old home still echoed with memories of laughter, scraped knees, and bedtime stories, but it also held unbearable silence. Especially since her only son, Victor, disappeared 15 years ago during a research expedition in the Colorado Rockies. Officially declared dead, his body was never found. Yet deep in her heart, Valerie never gave up hope. One quiet afternoon, Valerie sat knitting in the communal courtyard when a young boy plopped down beside her. "You're new here, Grandma?" he asked cheerfully. His name was Stephen, Steve for short, a lanky, curious 10-year-old who lived in the third building. He had messy hair, a bright grin, and a small birthmark beneath his right eye. Valerie froze. That same birthmark had been on both her husband and her son. Distinctive and unmistakable, just under the right eye like a tiny constellation dotting their skin. Valerie had traced it with her fingers when Victor was a child, kissing it goodnight. Nicholas had always joked that it was their family's lucky mark, something passed through generations like an invisible thread. And now here it was again, shining back at her from the cheek of this curious, vibrant boy who was casually kicking his feet beneath the bench. Her breath caught in her throat, her heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be coincidence, not again. Steve noticed Valerie's stare and chuckled. "Well, you look like the lady in my mom's necklace," he said. He pulled out a locket from under his shirt. Valerie's breath hitched. Inside was a photo of her younger self. It had been taken during a warm summer afternoon, back when Victor was just entering his teenage years, his arms slung over her shoulder as they stood by the lake at their old family cabin in Wisconsin. Valerie remembered that day clearly. She was wearing her favorite sun hat, and Victor had just caught his first fish. Nicholas had snapped the photo while joking that the two of them looked like explorers. Now, staring at the tiny image resting inside the locket around Steve's neck, it felt like the past had somehow circled back and tapped her on the shoulder. Her heart thudded. How had this image, so personal, so intimate, ended up in a stranger's hands? Or maybe, she thought, they weren't strangers at all. My mom says she doesn't know who she is, but it's my dad's mom. He disappeared before I was born. With trembling hands, Valerie baked an apple pie and visited Steve's apartment. His mother, Hope, answered the door, tired-eyed but warm. Over tea, Hope shared her story, how she met a man named Andrew Smith at a wellness retreat in Colorado 10 years ago. He had no memory of his past but was brilliant, kind, and deeply passionate about a mineral-based compound he believed could cure cancer. They fell in love. 2 weeks later, he vanished without a trace, leaving only a locket and a strange green pendant. Valerie reached out to an old family friend, retired prosecutor Samuel Grant. Samuel investigated and uncovered hospital records of an unnamed man treated for trauma and amnesia after an avalanche. His name? Andrew Smith. Valerie and Hope realized with mounting emotion that Andrew was, in fact, Victor, Valerie's missing son, Hope's long-lost love, and Steve's father. The man they had both known and loved had survived the avalanche but had been living under a false identity for over a decade, suffering from amnesia that wiped away the very essence of who he was. Hope sat in stunned silence, hand pressed over her heart, while Valerie felt tears well up in her eyes. The world tilted on its axis. Her son was alive. Just as the pieces began falling into place, Dr. Ian Kramer appeared. A renowned radiologist and CEO of Kramer Pharmaceuticals, he dismissed Valerie's claims as fantasy. He even threatened to call Child Protective Services, but Valerie wasn't shaken. She showed him a diary Steve had found, filled with fragmented memories, formulas, and the chilling line, "If Kramer finds the cure, none of us are safe." Steve found another diary sewn into the lining of an old jacket, his father's research notes. Valerie examined the green pendant and discovered it open like a locket. Inside, under magnification, were tiny, laser-etched chemical formulas. Valerie knew she had to confirm their authenticity. They visited Victor's former mentor, Dr. Michael Levine, a respected biochemist now retired in the outskirts of the city. One look at the pendant and diary, and he confirmed the cure for cancer was real. It had been Victor's life's work, stolen by Kramer, who published it under his own name, rebranded as Project K. Kramer retaliated, accusing Valerie of mental instability. He produced medical records suggesting she was delusional, a ploy to gain custody of Steve and erase the threat. But Samuel discovered the documents were falsified. All doctors listed worked at a private clinic owned by Kramer's foundation. When Kramer's security showed up at Dr. Levine's house, Valerie, Hope, Steve, and Samuel escaped through the kitchen window. They fled to the home of Alex Stevens, an investigative journalist. Alex, appalled by the conspiracy, helped them prepare for a live press conference. The day of the conference, Valerie was nervous. Kramer arrived with his entourage, smug and confident. But Steve stood tall, facing the cameras, and asked him, "Why did you lie about my dad?" Then he pulled out the diary page with Victor's handwriting and the formula. Under the spotlight, Kramer's mask cracked. He admitted to orchestrating Victor's disappearance, fearing that the cancer cure Victor had discovered would not only collapse his pharmaceutical empire, but also ignite a global revolution in medicine that would render countless drugs and therapies obsolete. Kramer confessed to feeding Victor a carefully constructed narrative, that shadowy forces were watching him, that if he returned home, he would be endangering his loved ones. He exploited Victor's fragile mental state and amnesia, convincing him that the only way to protect his family was to vanish completely. Kramer arranged for a new identity to be issued under the name Andrew Smith, and quietly had him put on a train headed toward the Pacific Northwest, away from anyone who might recognize him. He claimed Victor took nothing with him except a backpack and a pendant containing what he believed to be mere sentimental value. From that moment, Victor disappeared into obscurity. Kramer insisted he had no knowledge of what happened afterward, but it was clear he never tried to find him. The trail went cold, and for over a decade, Victor's fate remained a mystery, buried beneath lies, fear, and one man's ruthless ambition. Authorities launched investigations. Kramer was stripped of his titles, and the Peterson-Levine method was recognized worldwide. Victor's scientific legacy was restored. Hope changed Steve's last name to Peterson, but Victor himself remained missing. 1 year later, Valerie, Hope, and Steve lived in a new home, bought with the court settlement. Each year, on Victor's birthday, they received a package, rare mineral samples, and a note in shaky handwriting, or continue the fight. Steve grew passionate about medicine and geology, determined to carry on his father's work. He'd often stand at the window, whispering to the stars, "Well, good night, Dad," wherever you are. And somewhere, maybe in a quiet town near the mountains or a bustling village abroad, a man with kind eyes and fragments of memories sat staring at the same stars, unsure why he felt a tug in his heart. But he'd remember one day. He had to. What do you think of today's heartbreaking yet extraordinary story? Do you think Victor will find his way back to his family and his mother? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Also, thank you for tuning in to Storyline Narratives again.